Item 301, please stand if you can for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 302, approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Moving on to 401, approval modification of minutes from the April 3rd Governing Board meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 3rd Governing Board meeting.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to 501, approval of tonight's consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. As part of our consent agenda, I want to thank those that donated, which is ASU AZR3, Sun Produce Co-op, Concord Construction, and Tempe First United Methodist Church. Moving on to 601, Celebrate Excellence, Dr. Driscoll.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to celebrate. For the 6th year in a row, the Tempe Elementary School District has been recognized as a Best Community for Music Education, an award distributed by the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation. The nationwide award program recognized outstanding efforts by schools and districts who have made music education part of a well-rounded education. Designations are made to districts and schools that have demonstrated an exceptionally high commitment and access to music education. Thank you to our Fine Arts Coordinator, Courtney Darby, and our amazing music educators for their work in helping us achieve this designation year after year. Next week, we'll celebrate TD3 bus drivers on Tuesday, April 23rd, and administrative professionals on Wednesday, April 24th for their respective appreciation days. I would like to thank our bus drivers for ensuring our students are transported safely to and from school each day and for building positive relationships with our students. I would also like to thank our administrative professionals for their flexibility, ability to handle the unexpected, and for their warm and welcoming presence in our schools. Our district would not be a well-functioning system without these incredible staff members who fulfill these roles. If you're out at schools and see a bus driver or administrative professional next week, please help us and say thank you. Last week, our district celebrated Nationals Robotics Week. Tonight, I would like to highlight 3 programs in our district that inspire students to explore robotics and STEM-related fields. The PACE program for gifted students at Aguilar Elementary School recently challenged students to complete tasks by using the Spiro robot to write multi-step codes. Students at Geneva Epps Mosley Middle School VEX IQ robotics class put an emphasis on students becoming engineers by building robots that can maneuver through roadblocks and move items through a course. Broadmoor Elementary School's After School Robotics Club helped to introduce students to basic coding and robotics using Dash robots. Thank you to our educators who helped to open our students' minds to the wonderful world of robotics. All right, that ends that. I have another one, though. We have a video. So tonight, we would like to take the time to celebrate our 8th grade students at McCamey Academy of International Studies. Early this month, McCamey Academy held their annual 8th grade Community Project Showcase. The Community Project Showcase serves as a culminating event for McCamey students who have been working on their chosen project all year. This project exemplifies the IB philosophy that students have been focusing on throughout their middle school journey. The variety of topics students choose for their capstone assignments is what makes the showcase so meaningful. It also highlights what makes McCamey Academy such a unique place for students to develop, both in the classroom and beyond.
Tonight is the culmination of our McCamey students who have spent the last 3 years learning the IB program, and the culmination is to do an IB event. They are serving a need in a community, and they try to do that project by serving that need in the community by doing an action and then reflecting on it. The projects are supposed to generate their passion, what they really care about, what they want to help in the community to make the world a better place.
We worked with a domestic violence shelter for women and children. We made blankets for them, and we wanted to do an activity with them, and so we sewed on white patches so that they could kind of customize it, and we just wanted to make a memory for them, make it be like something new, a new starting place for them in their life after going through those traumatic events.
I think the project went really good. We had a very solid plan and we stuck accordingly to that plan, and I think that helped us a lot through the project. We had a really great time going there, and the campus was beautiful and all the women and children were so amazing and nice, and it was really great.
So my project's name is Beyond the Map, and it talks about 3 different countries, and I teach people about them. They were Morocco, Indonesia, and Finland. I used slideshows that compressed all the information that I gathered about the countries in a way that's very pleasing to the eye. I hope that they were able to understand that humans should try to learn more about each other, because we all live on the same planet, right? So we should want to be more familiar with where we are.
My project was the McCamey Toy Drive. For about a month in February, I had a toy drive with a bin in the front office to benefit children at the Banner Desert Children's Hospital. It went really well. I collected about 85 toys, and I got donations for about 5 families in the area. I like that it gave the kids a chance to be independent. Usually our work's guided by a teacher and we're told what to do. But I like that we had a chance to know, we had the parameters and we had documents to fill out, but we really got the opportunity to be ourselves and be creative and use our own thoughts.
The heart of IB is thinking globally minded, thinking of others, along with all the curricular activities that a normal school does. So it takes it to a higher level, has a higher level of rigor for the students, and hopefully they're learning their communication skills, they're being inquirers, they're being knowledgeable, they're risk takers, they're doing all the stuff that they need in order to make the world a better place a little bit at a time. And it's very tear-jerking because they have grown so much and they're really doing something, and I'm very proud of them.
And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this evening.
Jim, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. Yeah, I attended that event. It was fantastic. And there was a lot of environmental projects. There was a lot of human service projects. There was a lot of athletic projects, and it's just varied, and it was just interesting. And you needed more than an hour to do all that work. But it was something that the IB program, I think, has made a difference in those students' lives. And so I'm appreciative of that. And the cookies were good too. Thank you, Madam.
Cookies are really good detail. All right, moving on to 701, presentation from Terracon.
I think it's kind of hard to follow that presentation. That was pretty amazing. But thank you to board members, Tempe School District, for the opportunity to be able to come and present to you all at this time. My name is Trent Murray. I am what would be the project manager and assessor as we talk a little bit about, well, exactly what we did here for the Tempe School District. This is my colleague, MJ Gamathi. We are specifically going to talk, as you can see, about these 5 different schools specifically. But I wanted to kind of start with just telling you a little bit about us a little bit more within Terracon. The pictures you see up here on the screen are individuals that touched this project in some form or fashion, and then just all the experience that we have within our team. Majority of these individuals reside here in the Phoenix area, and of course our office is just right down off of Mill. And a little bit more about Terracon. We are a US based company with offices all over, of course, as you can see from this map. We have a rich history going back a long time specifically within materials testing, geotechnical work, environmental, and then also what we love to do, MJ and I, talking about facilities in general and facility condition assessments. So we're going to go a little bit more into that here in just a little bit with you. Just a little bit of a quick explanation. We walked, as an assessment team, we walked or have walked every school and building on these campuses. And we've assessed, as it says, you know, the physical characteristics and the condition of these schools. We've also, through our site inspections, through data entry into a system called Paragon, we've provided this analysis, which now we're going to report on these 5 specific sites. But we'd also like to make sure that you all know, and we want to give thanks to Dave Farmer and his staff as we interviewed the district staff about these specific schools, and actually all schools in general. But I do want to actually just say that these schools are, in our opinion, have been well maintained. They're very, what's the word for it? Basically just very, very stout in construction in general, as it is. They appear to be in good condition. Are they necessarily the best, the best they can be for the age that they are, let's put it that way too. So they've done a really good job maintaining these buildings. As part of the assessment, we use what's called a Unit Format 2 classification / code that gets us down to different levels in how we classify one, which would be the inventory items, and then how granular we get with information. So from like a mechanical piece of equipment, we may have gone down to what's called a level 5, where we're gathering manufacturer, model, serial number, or other levels where it's a little bit higher level, as in just across the board, kind of a snapshot. There are items that we didn't necessarily collect, as in necessarily like desks and or chairs and so forth that you'd see there. So we're specifically really looking at the buildings in general and their conditions and their systems that make up the buildings. I'm gonna, actually not just yet, I was gonna turn the time over to MJ, but I've got one more slide. This is the metric that we used in basically just in the comparison of the buildings that you're going to see in the data upcoming that MJ's going to present here in just a little bit. But of course, this facility condition assessment, as it stated here, is again the estimated repairs over the replacement value. So in anything above what we would say 10% of the replacement value is starting to get into a situation where you need to potentially start considering, some capital renewals, replacements, and so forth, because as it will happen, maintenance is just going to get larger and larger as it goes along. So I'm going to turn the time over to MJ to go through the data specifically as it's related to these campuses or schools. Go ahead, MJ.
So before I move on, I just want to apologize prior for 2 things. First thing, I have a thick accent. So at any point, if I'm going faster or if my accent is not coming across well, just let me know. I'll slow it down so that you guys understand what I'm talking about. And the second point is in facilities, and Dave can attest that we deal with lots of acronyms like HVAC, MEP, and stuff like that. So by habit, if I do that, you can always stop and ask what is that, and I'll explain as much as possible. And one more thing about these data that we looked at is that the FCI is just a comparison. It's a tool for you to compare between your building, multiple buildings you have. It's not across a different district, because the total replacement value can be anything different that can be taken from any federal departments. For this assessment, we took it from Department of Interior, and based on the details we looked at, Department of Interior's total replacement value for these buildings looked closer enough for us. But then there are multiple other portals we can take the data from, like Department of Defense and other places, but we didn't go there. We are just looking at, look at like, we are comparing apples to apples. So it's just to say how these buildings are doing comparing to one another, that's all. And with that, I want to show the overall overview of what we collected and how the data is looking so far. So for these 5 schools, we looked at overall 400,000 square feet of area. And in that area, we did a great job. Our team did such a great job. They captured almost 800 inventory items that went into the building, that makes the building. Anything from foundation to the site to all the way up to the roof. And in that 1,800 inventory items, we found that almost 250 items that you have to work or to repair or replace right away to make it, to bring to good condition. And these are just the items that that we are recommending to work on the first year, not for years from year 2 to 10. Our study period is for next 10 years. So this is just for the first year. And the total replacement value is for all 5 campuses. If you are to replace, as per Department of Interior standards, you have to spend $145 million to replace all these 5 campuses. And the year 1 deficiency that you have to spend on to bring it to good condition is $15 million. And the FCI is, like I mentioned, it's just year 1 deficiency divided by total replacement value. You can ask if anyone is good at math, students. It says 8.7%, but the numbers kind of indicates to more than 10%. It's because it's an average by FCI of all the buildings. It's not overall calculation. Just like if you are looking at just by numbers and overall deficiency by replacement value, it would be more than 10%. But this is average of all the buildings we are looking at. What I mean by that, you will know a little bit better in the next slide, because this is just an average of FCIs that you can see here by campuses. And a few pointers that I want to take your eyes towards is some schools where we are in slightly in a dangerous territory. Like Conley Middle School, obviously it's one of the bigger schools you have to spend more money on, but also it's one of the schools where you have to spend more money compared to its total replacement value to keep it maintainable, to keep it running. It's a little bit above 10%. Our metrics where it says at 1 year, if you are spending at least 10% of the total value of the building, that means that for next 10 years, you are spending the same amount that it's worth to replace. So at this point, we always recommend to say, hey, do a discussion on whether you want to keep running, whether you want to keep spending all this money to keep this building, or do you want to replace. So that's all we want to share here. And as you can see, some of the other buildings are doing fairly well compared to Conley, but they are also heading to that territory of 10%. And this is just a comparison as we put this together, this slide, we put this together based on direction from Dr. Driscoll and his team. They wanted to see an overall campus per view as Conley, Curry, and Conley West, as you guys call it, Aspire. They all are in one major area or site. They all technically is like a one big campus, and Rover Feast is like technically one big site. So that's why we did 2 campus comparisons here. And as you can see, Conley site requires a lot more. Oops. You can, yeah. It requires a lot more just in the first year to bring it to good condition, which is almost 8.2 million. But then rover fees, you have to spend a little bit lesser, around 6.8 million. There is not major difference, but then there is a difference that gives you better data for you to look at to make a decision for your board. And before I start diving into details, I just want to share how we classified the results we looked at and how we categorize the next 10 years money, where it's going for your buildings, how it is going to these buildings. The first categorization that we did is preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance is any maintenance that you do, like your HVAC equipment by changing your filter. Filter we all change in our house too. So I'm trying to keep it as easy as possible for us to comprehend. And then any filters or any cleaning that you do for your equipment, those are all comes under preventive maintenance. So that cost exists no matter what throughout your life cycle of your building. And then inventory recapitalization is any equipment that you're replacing when it comes to end of its useful life. Any equipment that you look at, any building, it has its useful life. And then beyond that, it's either going to cost you more to keep it running, or it breaks down on you on a day that you don't expect to, like on a summer day. You don't want your chiller to break down. So that's why we use useful life calculation to make sure that you are prepared ahead and replace before something drastic like that happens. And then work item. Work item is what we saw on the day of assessment that we felt like you didn't take care of right away, or your systems are in dire need of repair so that it stays in running condition. So that's what work item is. And that's a suggestion for us to you to take care right away. And this is the requirements for next 10 years. For all 5 campuses, almost 60 million you have to spend for next 10 years to keep them in good condition. And this is the breakdown by campuses, how much you have to be looking at. And as you can see, Conley Middle School is your biggest spender. And the next one is fee. And this is just a breakdown by the 3 categories that I mentioned: work item, preventive maintenance, and inventory recap. Your inventory recap changes over year to year, but then your preventive maintenance is a constant money that you would be spending. So for Conley Middle School, you have to spend 1 million, almost 1 million every year to keep it in good condition. And then I'm going to do a little deeper dive into each campus. And this information will be repetitive because I'm sharing the same charts, but for different schools. So the first one is Conley Middle School. As you can see, Conley Middle School, this buildings, as per, you can look at, this trend carries across almost all campuses too. Cafeterias are the main buildings that we saw that requires more money put in the first year to bring it to a good condition. So right now, your cafeteria is the first one where it is at 32% FCI. When you compare it just by cost worth, definitely gymnasium for next 10 years, it looks like you have to be spending more money. But then we are comparing not just by the worth, we are also comparing to its worth to the money that you have been putting. So that's why the FCI is a little bit different compared to the actual money you are spending. If we look at just the money you are spending, your main building will require a lot more money compared to the cafeteria just in the first year. And this is the requirements for next 10 years. As I mentioned earlier, your preventive maintenance cost would be the same throughout the next 10 years, almost the same, because these costs, we have factored in inflation. We have factored in a standard 3% inflation in there, so that as the years move on, these costs reflect the inflation at that point of the time. And those yellow bars over there are where you would be replacing certain systems. You would be replacing your carpet, repainting your building, or replacing HVAC equipment. That's where those costs come in, and those costs would differ from year to year based on at which point of the time the equipment comes to end of its useful life. And the orange one is the deficiency. Obviously, it's a bigger one because there are certain items that we have to take a look and make sure that we focus on them right away. And the more time we delay focusing on them, the more time we procrastinate in spending. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger with the inflation. And also, as these equipment are not taken care of, they are going to deteriorate exponentially too. So the cost is going to keep becoming bigger and bigger as years go by. And the next chart here on the right side just is a breakdown of what are the systems that you have to be spending more money on, so that you have an idea. And this is typical of any building that we look at across the nation. Is your most money spending categories would be your HVAC, roofing, and interior finishes. Those are the most money spending categories, and electrical. So as you can see, HVAC is your number one here, and then your roofing and electrical. Roofing and interior finishes sometimes interchange here and there, but in any building, 1/3 of the expenditure comes from the roof. That's an industry standard that we use. And Curry Elementary. Curry Elementary is a smaller campus, so just 2 buildings. As you can see, the main building is getting to that 10% dangerous category, but then still you're fairly good. And the first year spending would be around 700,000. And overall, for the next 10 years, you have to spend almost 3 million just for the main building. And then this is the requirements for next 10 year. For the system-wise distribution, as you can see, the major category would be your roofing, roofing, HVAC, and then electrical systems. And Connolly West / Aspire for next one would be classrooms, school offices. Classroom school offices are still in fairly yellow condition, so it's okay, but then you should spend certain money to make them in good condition. And then this is a breakdown by preventive maintenance, work item, and inventory recap. So one of the other things why you see consistently across 2027 that huge spike in inventory recap is because when we went into these buildings, we saw that these carpets and paintings were all in fairly good condition, and based on our calculations, we just moved replacement of these just 3 years down the line. So that's why you see that spike in all campuses where we are recommending replacement of these carpets, floor tiles, or paint finishes 3 years down the line based on the condition we saw. And this cost keeps repeating every 10 years or 8 years based on how much time we recommend for each item. For paint, we usually recommend like 8 years. For carpet, we usually like 10 years. For HVAC, it's like 25 to 30 years. It keeps repeating based on that. And here you can look at that roofing is the major expenditure item here, because is that roofing or interior finishes? My bad. The colors are almost the same. The cost that you have to be spending more on that particular category says that it's just that it's in a slightly worse condition compared to the other. So you have in your put in your grants, you make sure that like you are spending that main money on the first category before moving on to the rest of the categories. And the next one is Rover Elementary School. Rover Elementary School is slightly in a better condition compared to the other, but then the major cost spending goes to the site. Trent, do you want to talk about why site is slightly higher?
Yeah, the reason for the larger amount, of course, in that 1 year deficiency is more related towards the pavement, basically, and or replacement there. Curbing, and then asphalt replacement specifically.
Thank you. And then this is the requirements for next 10 year. As you can see, most of the cost is fairly distributed along well here. There is no major one that's like screaming out right here. Everything is almost in the same 3 to 4 million category. And the last one, Fees Preparatory School. And this is one of the campuses with a lot of buildings. And most of the buildings are in yellow condition and some in red condition. As you can see, just like the couple of buildings up in the list, gym kitchen is one of on the top list because of just the wear and tear that goes into it and how much money you have to spend to make it in good condition or just in appearance wise too, because lot goes into the kitchen and a lot of inventory that we capture. It drives that. And gymnasium, that's one of the things because of the interior finishes that's ranking up higher. And this is the breakdown of how it looks, and the brown one is the interior finishes, which is one of the bigger category, and then electrical. And that's all from us. Any questions? Anything that you want me to deep dive on?
Thank you, Mr. President. Are you okay if I just go down my list? Okay. My first one is, I just want to be clear with the community. Why did we do this audit?
Why? It's just that it's easier for us as a third person to come in and take a deeper dive and give that opportunity on how each and every equipment is performing and what's the condition. When someone is running this facility on day-to-day basis, it's hard for them to capture everything in one set. And we as experts, we have our particular standards and data sets and this softwares that helps you to do this really quickly, which in fair amount of time, we did it in 3 months. If this were to be done by your facility team, it would have taken them year or two to do it by themselves, and they don't have these standards and these data. The costs are all based on industry standard data, which is not available to everyone. And you have to have specific license to have these industry cost estimating data. And that's why we came in to provide that industry standard data and the cost that goes along with it, so that we help you make that decision on which one you want to focus right away.
Great, thank you. So just so the community understands and I understand, one reason that we did this was to look at what we have coming forward as far as maintenance, what we have to do with our budget. I see Eric over there wanting to probably run away after you saw those big old numbers, but I'm grateful that you're here to make sure that we can maintain our schools with what we get. Third, knowing which direction to go. Is it a property that we keep maintaining, or is it a property that we start to rebuild? So that leads me to my next question is, I don't have in front of me, Dr. Driscoll, but what are our next schools for our rebuild?
The schools that we displayed for you today, so Connolly, Curry, Rover, Fees, and then Connolly West is Aspire. They said Connolly West. I'm like, do we have another campus that I have not been to? I was like, where's this Connolly West? It was Aspire. But really, one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this is we passed a bond, and I didn't want people looking at me like, what school are you going to do? I wanted to have some data so we can make smart decisions on where we need to put our money in quicker, rather than say, hey, let's not do anything to Connolly and then we're spending $55 million to keep it up when we're going to tear the school down and build a new. So that was one of the sneaky points. So as it for your superintendent, he didn't want people in the community saying, oh, he's just picking schools. And then the Rover families come out and with their shirts at the board meetings like, pick Rover, pick Rover. So another facet about these schools too that I would tell you when we get to that point that we want to ask you guys to go out for our RFQ is they're all on the same footprint. They're all in the same land. And so I've been talking to architect firms and construction, and they say it's better for us to be fiscally responsible to do on the same foot plan rather than come and say, okay, we're going to do Fees and then we're going to come back in 2 years and do Rover. It'd be better for us fiscally to do both at the same time because they're on the same plot of land, because then you only pay a contractor fee one time rather than come and paying that same fee twice. So that was another reason too that our community it's a beautiful time to do it. I'm not hedging, but I'll take coffee if you want Rover for. No, I'm playing.
Dr. Driscoll, with that said, I understand that Connolly and Curry have a shared AC handler system too, which makes it a little bit different and unique on us kind of having to do them at the same time.
And a cafeteria, I believe. They're shared, yes. And they don't have a gym at Curry, if I'm not mistaken, right, Dave? Yeah. I found that
Multi-purpose
out-
room.
I found that out. I was like, oh, there's no gym here.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you. So with that said, I want to thank you for bringing to the attention of our community that we are doing the best we can with what we have and that you are okay impressed with how we've been maintaining it. I mean, I was born when these schools were built and I'm not as young as I want to be anymore. But with that said, and my magical school tours, I've been seeing, us maintaining the burnt orange and avocado green touches, and those are coming back. So, if they're okay, then I tell the principal, that's awesome. Like, you guys are so in fashion. But with that said, then I see you kind of answered this question for me with the graphics, but do you give Dave is the next part of the service, like this month, this quarter, this year, kind of go down these lists and focus on that? I mean, obviously, just like any of us with a car and a home, you're going to have a surprise and you're going to have to detour and go and fix that AC, usually mostly ACs. So is that the next part of the service, is that you give us like a well-rounded plan that the community knows what to expect? And I want to say that the community, we're being extremely transparent here and showing you that we really are concentrating on where we put our funds. Construction prices 10 years ago are astronomical in comparison. And so, I'm grateful that we did this. And Dr. Driscoll, thank you for doing it, because it allows us to really look and say, okay, are we maintaining the school at the same price that it would be to rebuild the school? Now, my only concern is that when on rebuild, the construction of these schools is solid, right? And so rebuild construction is probably not at the same level anymore as it was then. I mean, we actually use block and more concrete and things like that. But so with that said, is that part of this, that you guys give us a comprehensive direction on how to focus on what we should be doing, boom, 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 next?
That's a fantastic question. Not many people ask that, and not many people get that service part of the assessment. They all look for this final data and they move on. But that's a fantastic question, and Dave made sure that we provide that post-service. So what we are doing part of this assessment is we are providing a software, and we are training your facilities team to how to look at this data. And let's say that each year you give Dave 10 million to maintain these buildings, and we help Dave.
Thanks, Eric. He just pulls money out of his
plug-in for him.
hat. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little plug-in for him. We teach him how to look at the data, and the software lets him to go put that 10 million amount and pick what buildings he wants to focus on. And then in that next 10 million, the system will calculate how much he can spend on each category.
Great.
Based on the impact, based on the appearance, based on the criticality of the operations of the building. And then Dave can play with his team on which ones he wants to focus on for that particular year with that amount that he has, so that these critical aspects of the buildings are well taken care of. So that's what the software is, and we make sure that we train the team right way to look at this data. And also, every time they replace these equipment, the numbers change. And they have to make sure that these are getting updated. Mm-hmm. And that's where the software part comes in, and our training comes into play, where they can update this by themselves, or we come in and we help them update this data on regular basis, so that you are looking at these numbers on regular basis and they are doing a well-educated and up-to-date budget planning.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for the presentation. And it's really important for our community to know how important our bonds and getting those passed are, because it's the amount that we're getting from the state at a state level in order to continue to do this do not match those numbers. So I want to thank the community, and especially everybody who's here, for supporting having schools that are in good condition, so that we can continue to educate at the highest level that we possibly can. And you did a great job with the presentation, and I know it was a lot that you had to do, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the data and how you presented it. The question I had, you looked at a 10-year plan. Did you factor in today's cost or inflationary costs over those 10 years?
Yes, as you look at the data and the graphs, at that particular present value, we look at the present value worth, and then as years go by, we put in a standard inflation percentage. Obviously, inflation changes from year to year, but we try to keep it at average 3 to 4% based on the client request. And I think Dave requested 3%, and we have kept it as 3% increase in inflation year to year. So it changes year to year, and it reflects that year's actual need.
With the software, I'd kind of relate it to a living document, right? So that it can be updated and changed, and as MJ had kind of mentioned, and reports can be produced, annually, monthly, that type of a situation as it is. So yeah, as things happen, things can be changed within the system too to help reflect that.
Mr. President, my second question is, these schools or these buildings are all different sizes in general. Did you work it out on the first year cost per square foot per campus?
So the FCI, that's what it looks at when we are comparing. It looks at the overall cost you have to spend for the first year compared to the value of the building, the replacement value of the building. So that's the percentage that we are looking at for comparison.
So we're looking at the asset and then the cost to maintain that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see specifically issues on life safety and security. And we're just spending more and more as the world changes and our parents expect more and that sort of thing.
So we didn't go into that in-depth level because it's too much data to cover in just 10 to 15 minutes. But then this data is available in the software. So when Dave and his team is making that decision on which equipment they have to replace in that particular building, when I mentioned impact type and the priority, the life safety comes into consideration. And they get to choose the items that are life safety or ADA first before moving on to the next equipment.
And just also note too that the assessment is what's there currently, and replacement is for what's there, right? Roughly to today's standard. Trying to, let's put it that way. For example, like electrical, understandably some of your schools may not have the electrical, I don't want to say capacity, right? But maybe not enough to do what your teachers want to do in the classroom. It's, again, we're assessing what's there currently, and then trying to go from there, trying to have a better understanding of what it would be in the future, or replacement of those items currently today of what's there. But
the study is intended for like-to-like replacements. Yeah. We don't recommend upgrades. Upgrades is a different set of study called suitability gap analysis. That's done on a separate aspect, and separate results come out of it, which we can integrate with the software too if needed and do a separate study.
Mr. President, I guess my question is, from a maintenance standpoint, what does the Arizona School Facilities Board do in rating these buildings? You used a national standard. Is there an Arizona standard that we should be looking at as well?
yeah, I wish the State Facility Board actually had a real good standard to go off of, right? Or using the similar type of metric. Part of the issue is that the other schools, let's just say other schools, haven't been assessed in the same type of manner. And so it's kind of hard to say. There isn't a metric out there. I know I've actually talked to individuals with the State Facility Board to see about the idea of driving this type of facility condition assessment across the state, just because how important it can be for, preparing districts and the state for what's upcoming and capital renewal of just all the systems in general. But they're a little tight, right, on money. So there isn't, just to sum that up basically, is that there isn't a standard that the State Facility Board has currently, no.
So to continue on that, then the legislature could come in and say, oh, those standards aren't necessary. Everybody knows.
I mean, it's fair assumption to say. I do know that through talking to an individual with the State Facility Board, they are looking at trying to do more of this in the future, knowing that it hasn't been done for multiple years. I think it was back when the 90s, the last time a real good full assessment has even been done on schools in general across the state. And so they are considering it. Does that mean that every school district's going to be assessed? I don't know, there's a lot out there. I mean, they're talking 14 million square feet potentially here, hopefully soon. We'll see. So.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this information is great as we prioritize where we should be putting our limited funds and what we can manage. And I know Mr. Farmer and his crew every year do all the maintenance inspections and the things that are required, and they have a fairly good track record of how much we do to maintain these facilities as we're supposed to from that standpoint. So I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about being able to manage a couple projects at the same time. So when you talk about the same footprint, is that because they're adjacent campuses?
And I would say, well, to that, yes, basically, because they're adjacent campuses, they do share a lot of the same infrastructure or sharing of the buildings. It can make sense on a economy of scale to do the entire site and not just one campus after another for that reason.
And then I guess as a board, we're going to have a discussion about, in these facilities, how many seats are not filled with kids' seats and the vacancy. And we've closed schools before, and we've combined things, and we're adjusting the boundaries to go to and particularly to go to some of our newer schools that have the capacity. So I'm pleased with that. So, but it's one of the tools that we look at besides all these folks in the room tonight. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your presentation. I work with the geotechnical group from your organization, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I especially appreciate the presentation because we're not just voted in by community members who have children in schools, but by community members who don't have children in schools. And I think a lot of people aren't aware of how much a school in good repair does for their home property values. And, you know, we want strong schools, not just for educating our kids, but also for our neighborhoods and for what it does for everybody's property value. I especially am grateful for what you said right at the beginning, that these schools are the best they can be for the age that they are. I think most of us in this room would love to have that be said about ourselves, let alone the buildings. But I think that's a great statement, and really kudos to Dave and his team for keeping them in great repair. I know I've seen plenty of times with caution cones up on the roof of Connolly as they're doing roofing and HVAC repair and all of that. I know that there's a constant effort to keep these schools in good repair. It reminds me of when you said that this is an outside group coming in to essentially give us an objective view of where we're at, which is hard when we love these schools and we see them for who they are, and we don't always have the ability to see the whole picture like you explained. It reminds me of when our old 1976 Ford LTD kept on going into the shop every 2 to 3 months, and Jack Harris finally said, hey, you know, you're nickeling and diming this car, and it'd be better for you to just get a new car, which all the kids were excited about, but my parents weren't too thrilled about it. But it was a necessary purchase, right? Because we were spending the money anyways, right? So I appreciate the perspective and especially your time to teach us about how to see the data and to make well-informed decisions, and especially the continued support that you give to Dave and his team to make logical and reasonable decisions. So thank you very much.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to thank you for the presentation and then also the level of detail and work that went into this. And also your answer to Allison's question about the follow-up with the software. That's really neat and cool, and an effective use of tax dollars. So that's very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
right, moving on to 8:01, open call to the public. Technically speaking, there is no open call to the public at 8:01, so we're moving straight past that. On to 9:01, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of the school garden STEAM integration specialist position and corresponding job description. Now, on this item, we have 9 blue cards. And so here, I'll just remind the folks that are going to be speaking, you have 3 minutes to speak. The timer will be on the many various screens. However, if and when you reach that 3-minute threshold, the mic's just going to cut off, and I'll just say thank you, and you're just going to walk away, and the next person will come up. So with that said, there's going to be a short video here kind of going over the rules.
Persons wishing to address the board must fill out the request to address the board card and submit it to the board's executive coordinator prior to the start of the board meeting. Per governing board policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings, the governing board president shall set a time limit on the length of the comment period. For items on the agenda, individuals will be called upon when the item is introduced. For topics not on the agenda, citizens will be called upon during this portion of the meeting under Open Call to the Public. In compliance with the open meeting law, the governing board will neither discuss nor take action on items raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on a subsequent agenda. During the open call to the public, issues addressed must be within the jurisdiction of the board.
All right, first folks up, we got Halen Young, Tracy Hopa.
So we are a Rover family community. We live in the Tempe Elementary School District, and we have struggled with schools, and we found Rover and love it, hands down the best school on the planet. But the number one thing that got us there was that garden. It is beautiful. We go in there, and it's something that my kids have learned at, they've been taught there, and we are just asking to have a dedicated staff member to take care of that garden for us, because it's a large task, and it has been such a godsend for my children to learn things that I can't teach them, because I'll kill your plants. You want to say anything? And she spends a lot of time in the garden with her class, and her brother does, and they get to learn about plants and bugs and just the talk. And they get to do arts and crafts with live plants and everything. It's been pretty fantastic, and I really hope you consider letting us have a garden specialist STEM instructor.
And Miss Kelly has taught me how to juice, and now I know how to juice fruit. And she's taught me a lot of stuff, and I am really happy that she's done that. And I don't want to lose the garden because that was actually the first school I ever had a garden at. And,
You did?
yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before we go on, we got clear from the IT folks that the timer's gonna be working? All right, Charlotte. All right. We got multiple timers going here. Until at least that gets figured out. Next person up, Heather Dowdle.
Hello. As a first grade teacher at Rover Elementary, I wanted to speak on how impactful our garden has been for my students. It is a flourishing and bountiful space because we have someone in charge of all the crucial, time-consuming tasks required to uphold it. This role requires a level of expertise that not all teachers have. I know, at least not myself. For example, with a knowledgeable gardener, we may not have had the right plants to grow this spring to attract butterflies who have begun to lay eggs. As we're in the middle of our study on life cycle, my students have been given a natural, firsthand experience of that very process. I understand we, as a district, would like to grow in bringing science and ELA together. With the support of our garden coordinator, there's been no better way for me to connect the two than through our Rover Vine. By having an expert guide us, our school has built a strong community where we have researched, explored many of the same topics across all grade levels. Recently, all Rover children dissected, labeled, juiced, and enjoyed a variety of citrus fruits. This community-wide project allowed my young, impressionable first graders to bond with their fourth grade buddies over having studied similar ideas despite the years between them. While I could talk about this space forever, I'd like to end by saying how proud I am to be a Rover Ram because of our garden and how it's changed my students' learning. Without a capable and effective person to challenge, encourage, and aid teachers in getting outside, it is hard to imagine the culture of Rover Elementary School remaining as rich as it is. Thank you.
We're going to allow a moment for maybe some technical changes here.
Thank you.
Cool, look at that. All righty. Next person up is Megan Gilbert.
Hi, my name is Megan Gilbert, and I am a parent at Rover as well as a 19-year teacher at the school. Today, I want to talk about the impact a garden/STEM specialist has on our school community. A school garden offers a plethora of educational opportunities that extend far beyond the confines of traditional classroom walls. It serves as a living laboratory, fostering a deep appreciation for the environment and the food we consume. In our outdoor learning spaces, our students develop invaluable skills in science, math, and environmental studies. Currently, many of our students have a lack of exposure to green space. This position helps all teachers provide that equitable, hands-on experience to the outdoors while tying in science standards. At Rover, our garden specialist attends grade level meetings to plan science and STEM activities. Teachers are given guidance on how to incorporate the outdoors into their lessons. The grant writing knowledge with this position is indescribable. Our fifth graders received 2 years of partnership with Blue Watermelon, which provides food ingredients and recipes to our classrooms. My oldest son learned that he liked sesame seeds through this program and making tahini sauce, something he never would have tried without this. Because of this position, our first graders partner with a local farm and have built a science unit around the theme of hatching baby chicks. The same farm partners with our school to teach students about sustainability through our compost program at lunch, where students collect and weigh food waste to compost or donate. The list goes on and on. Organizing farm fresh cooking classes, running a local CSA food subscription that provides farm fresh food to families monthly. This includes SNAP eligible families. Helping with field trips, coordinating garden work days, all things that cannot happen without this position. If you guys are on social media, I encourage you to follow the Rover Vine. You'll see so many more educational activities our students have access to doing outdoors thanks to the creation of this position. The latest outdoor learning research emphasizes that the key component to successful garden management lies in the presence of a specialized person fulfilling the role. And at our school, we've witnessed this firsthand through our students, through our lessons, and through our test scores. Thank you again for letting us speak, and we look forward to seeing you in our garden.
All right, next person is Deirdre Pfeiffer.
Hello, I am a parent of a Rover second grader and fifth grader. I'm also a member of our garden committee, and I've been a member since 2019, and I'm currently the chair of the garden committee, and I've been a chair of the committee since 2021. And today I want to speak with you about the role of our garden committee in the Rover Garden, our impact that we're having on kids in the school and the broader community, and importantly, the essential role of our garden coordinator or the school garden specialist in these activities. So our garden committee brings together Rover families, staff, and the community together to cultivate a space that supports the learning and well-being of not only the kids, but also the staff at our school. And we also help to promote community investment in the school. What do? We help to organize work days. We run a lunch recess program. We tell the story of the garden to the community, and we recruit and train volunteers to help make the garden what it is today. And I'm proud to report that we've brought, just this year, 1,737 hours of volunteering into the garden to support the school. Our activities have also supported 337 classroom experiences from Q1 through Q3 at Rover. The garden not only supports people who are currently invested in the school, but also brings new people into the school. Our space is a gateway into the school. I can't tell you how many parents I've met who have their kids at Scudder nearby, and they come wander into the garden during one of our work days, and through that they learn about Rover. And some of these parents actually decide to enroll in the school. And our family, which is here today, we are one of the families, we're actually outside of the district, and we're coming into the district because of the garden at the school. So it's a great recruitment tool. So the garden coordinator, the garden specialist, how are they essential to these activities? So the specialist, first of all, provides expertise on gardening and training to our volunteers. I came into the garden committee knowing nothing about gardening in 2019, and I've learned so much and am now in this leadership role with the school garden. The specialist also plays an important role in providing consistency with the garden during times of transition. And so I saw 2 of these periods happen already. One was during COVID, and the other was when many of the families who helped to reboot the garden in 2022 had their kids graduate. I see one of them here today. And we needed to keep going, and the garden specialists helped to maintain that institutional knowledge. And then lastly, the garden specialist brings community investment into the garden. They bring time and money from organizations like Sprouts, Tempe Cares, Let's Go Compost, the National Charity League. So in conclusion, I strongly urge your investment in this position. I think you will see many times a return on this investment in terms of what the specialist will do to our kids, the school, and the broader community. Thank you.
Next person up is Deb Breeze.
To the governing board and Dr. Driscoll, my name is Deb Breeze, and I was blessed to be a teacher at Rover for 28 years and just retired at the end of the last school year. About 25 years ago, I started the garden at Rover. And this reason was to create an outdoor learning area. There actually is a picture right over here hanging with the students harvesting lettuce from my class. Most students don't realize how food arrives at the grocery store and or how much work it takes to grow food. However, the biggest lessons I wanted the students to learn was that in life, we have our own gardens, and we have 2 choices of what we plant in our own garden. And our own gardens are our hearts. All of the choices we make each and every day lead to what we plant in the garden. We can make good choices or bad ones. So we can either plant seeds of kindness or we can plant weeds. When we see weeds, we need to be sure to pull the entire plant root and all. Not to mention we need to pull them when they are small. Ignoring them only allows them to grow bigger and harder to get rid of. Weeds are something that can destroy our garden and our lives. However, planting seeds of kindness can change a person's day, let alone their own lives. This can be from a simple smile and hello to actually going and apologizing for something they said or did. I've actually had students tell me that they had weeds growing in their heart, and then they proceed to pull them out. And they actually understand this at a deeper level. Once I actually took a student out to the garden and asked them to pull a weed. They pulled it but didn't realize they had left the root in the ground. They had only broken off the top. Then they pulled another weed and got the root. However, I had them pull one more and show a bigger root and how it was, what happens when they say sorry but don't really mean it. I told the student they had 2 choices, let the weed grow again in the garden or throw it into the compost. They chose the compost. I would ask them how their garden was growing. They would look at me and say, it's just seeds of kindness. I saw big changes in the choices they made after that. On a positive side, I saw so many students plant so many seeds of kindness. The other day, I was able to go with the 1st grade to Farmer Mark's farm. While I was there, I had a parent come up to me and ask me if I remembered them. They had actually been in my class and are now bringing their own kids to Rover because of their experience. So in your hands, my husband is handing out to you a packet of seeds. Some of them are small. The first one is a lettuce seed. You guys have a small choice, we feel, but you also have a hard choice, which is the corn. But the pumpkin seed is the big seed, and it can make a big impact. So I ask you to please plant a seed of kindness at Rover. Please approve the monies to be paid to continue supporting our beautiful garden in the garden educator position.
Next person is a Dr. Sandra Brightwell.
Was that me? Did you start the timer? Good evening, President Miller, governing board members, Dr. Driscoll, Principal Lineberger, district staff, Rover Rams, and guests. My name is Sandra Brightwell. I'm a parent of 2 Rover Ram alumni and a current Rover student. I'm a registered voter in Tempe and a resident of the Lakes. I'm an educator, a Cub Scout leader, a member of the Rover Site Council, and the current Rover PTA president. I'm here tonight to show my support of Principal Lineberger's request to institutionalize a garden integration specialist for Rover Elementary. I can assure you that the academic experiences my 25-year-old had at Rover does not quite compare to what my 12-year-old received and my 9-year-old is benefiting from, thanks to the integration of the garden curriculum, Rover's leadership, Deb Breeze, Kelly Hedberg, and many others' dedication. Our children are benefiting from the fruits of this labor. That soil on the corner of Lakeshore and Watson, it's not just for kickball or a great game of tag. That soil has allowed for truly rich exchange of outdoor experiences, rooted in nurturing so many things to plant, grow, and harvest. The opportunity of tasting new foods and connecting academics with nature. Integrating math, history, science, and a few insects, the Rover Vine, the learning sanctuary, allows Rover to excel as an A+ school, embrace the community, and help Rover dig deeper. I would love to see this position be filled as soon as the 24-25 academic year. Frankly, I think this type of position at each Tempe school deserves a green thumbs up. Thank you for helping Rover plant this ever-important seed and approve this essential position. The investment before you is truly Rover Ram strong.
My name is Grant. I'm a 3rd grader at Rover. The reason why I want to keep the garden is because it's really fun to learn about nature and bugs and plants and I can't remember anything else. Thank you.
Next up is a Lauren Guthrie.
Hi, my name is Lauren Guthrie. I'm a parent of 2 students who have attended Rover Elementary, and I'm also a volunteer at the Rover Garden. Through my children's time in the Rover Garden and my time volunteering at the garden, I see the benefit of the garden to my kids and to Rover students. There's the experiential hands-on learning experiences, lessons incorporating hydroponic units. There's the fostering of a mindset of curiosity and exploration. There's the garden as a natural laboratory. The garden provides a real-world look at how food is grown as students are planting, growing, harvesting, and preparing a variety of fruits and vegetables. There's the exposure to nutritious food, including skill development like washing and preparing healthy foods. The benefits of nature-based outdoor learning experiences and also creating a connection to nature and the outdoors. Further, the garden brings the Rover community together through outdoor events such as our garden work days, student of the month breakfasts, music concerts. A school garden like Rover's is an asset to the school community and the broader community. It distinguishes Rover from other schools. When I talk to families about Rover, the garden is the first thing that I talk about. I really consider it the heart of Rover Elementary. It supports the health, well-being, and the learning of Rover students. The garden educator position is an essential part of the functioning of the Rover Vine Garden, and it would positively impact our teachers and our students. So I hope that you'll please consider the school garden STEAM integration specialist position at Rover Elementary. Thank you.
Next, we have a Veronica Nikki Thompson. Nikki Thompson? Oh. There we go.
Hi, my name is James Thompson. I am Nikki's dad. This garden is a huge part of the school. I can't say that it's what led us there, but it is definitely part of what made us fall in love with the school. My oldest son went there years ago, and we definitely kept the kids going there. The teachers, the staff, Garden Kelly. It's just amazing, and I'll let Nikki tell you how she feels about the garden.
The garden is one of my favorite things about the school. It gives sometime every month, at the end of the month, they
Go ahead.
At the end of the month, sometimes people get pulled to create these farm bags that give many families, many Rover families, produce from the garden. And it is one of my favorite things about the school. Thank you for your time.
Our final speaker is Hope, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to bail on your last name, Hope B. That's all I got.
Hello, my name is Hope Belfi, and I am a 7th grader at McCamey Academy. I went to Rover Elementary School for elementary school, of course. And I must say that the garden was probably, like, when I think of Rover, one of my favorite memories, or all my favorite memories, were in the garden. We got to do all kinds of hands-on activities that really made it special. And kids are always inside learning, and we're inside all day. And when we do go outside for recess, the only thing out there really besides the garden is a couple fields. So the garden gives a beautiful place for kids to just wind down and relax, and it's so beautiful in there. Like the flowers and everything just makes me so happy when I'm in there. And if we didn't have the garden specialist position, then the garden would start becoming run down and abandoned, and it wouldn't give future kids the ability to be able to go in there and experience everything that me and so many other children have got to experience. And I really hope you do consider keeping the garden specialist position. Thank you.
With that, the public discussion has ended. I suppose, Dr. Driscoll, did you want to speak about the position?
How do I follow her?
Yeah, that's your job.
I'm excited to see all these people at our board meetings. This is like I'm like happy. But I would say just having the students come up and just seeing them advocate, that's what we want for our students. And to see the McCamey student come up here, 7th grader, I was like, she should come do my Celebrate Excellence. So if you want, you can come every board meeting and read my Celebrate Excellence. You were so much better. But no, it's a valuable position. I can't speak for the board, so they will vote on this after I shut up. But I think it's just important that the community is involved, and to see the people coming out and support it, it means a lot, and it means a lot for our students. So I got the chance to go out there earlier this year, and is it Kelly? Yeah, she was like, "Oh, you're here," and she gave me the whole tour and took me inside and showed me all the supplies and how they do it. So in the previous principal. He actually, when I first got on accepted the position, I went out to Rover and he gave my daughter some seeds to plant, and we did back home. Their dad doesn't have a green thumb, like the lady said. We totally butchered that plant, but the kids had fun doing it. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys to take action on this agenda item.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the school garden STEAM integration specialist position and corresponding job description.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Board. One, I just want to say, wow, this is awesome. Sometimes when this many people come to our school board meetings, I just want to like hide underneath the desk. But this one is like I'm growing like a seed, and I want to pop up out of my desk and hug all of you. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for being volunteers and activists and teachers and administrative staff and students. I am so proud of you for coming up and speaking. That is not an easy job. And you just represented your school and your community, and you did an awesome, awesome job. That is activism, and I'm just tingly all over about it. So this is one of my favorite school board meetings I've ever had. With that said, I love that this garden has brought this. Everybody in this room has something in common, right? And that's usually the barrier between all of us on being able to communicate and being able to make good decisions for the next generation. So I am absolutely delighted to see you all here. I thank you for taking the time. I thank you for sharing your stories. I thank you for the emails that we're not allowed to tell you that you're listening to, but we listen to you and we read them and we know them. With that said, this is a very unique experience that Rover has, right? This is, I've spoken with several other school board members in other places, and they said, oh my God, we could never like keep up, and my teachers always have so much more to do, and then where would we find the budget and all of that good stuff? So this isn't necessarily a project at this robust level that would be able to be at every single one of our schools. But with you guys and your community support, I feel so much better making that decision, but just know that we still need your support on that. And with that said, Dr. Driscoll, I have a question for you. I know you've worked really hard on trying to find a way to make this happen for Rover and for that community and for our schools. So how would this necessarily be funded? And what is the longevity of the funding? Because I don't want to put anything or any burden onto any school that wouldn't be able to be maintained.
I think if you approve this position, that we will have to look at our budget to make sure we can actually help to make it sustainable. So it's up to you guys. See how to turn that back and put it on them. See, that's good.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all again for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I appreciated everybody speaking tonight in favor of this. I'm really, an applied learner, and but I heard some things about social emotional learning in the garden, and I'm really happy to hear that, because we can call it STEAM or STEM or whatever, but not social emotional learning, because the legislature gets mad at us when we do that. So anyway, but I'm totally in favor of this. I think we need it at a lot of our schools. You've probably seen a picture, or I have a picture of me shoveling dirt into the garden up at Shamley School, and planting trees and all those sort of things. So I've been to a lot of different outside portions of many of the schools. And I think this is important for the community engagement. And we seem to be doing more of that here in the city of Tempe in the neighborhood. So I'm going to support this position now and in the future if I'm still on the board. Thank you, Mr. President.
I just wanted to extend my gratitude for, I love public advocacy, and I love all this support and all this, the people in the room. Usually it's just kind of all us folks up here, and so it's really great. I also wanted to express kind of the joy of the students getting up and speaking. That was kind of, frankly, my favorite part. And in specific, Hope, that was outstanding. Part of my day job is I just watch board meetings all throughout the county, which means I watch a lot of public comments. And that was a rock star performance. That was really good. That was really excellent. Please, I don't know, find a club that lets you do more public speaking. That was excellent. With that, we have a motion by Charlotte and seconded by Jim. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Energy drops. Moving on to 902, discussion, consideration, possible approval of the schedule of the governing board meetings for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the schedule for the governing board meetings for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 1001, reports from standing committees. Do we have any reports? Nothing? All right. Item 1002, student activity report. Any questions on that? Item 1101, board information. Any additional comments? Allison, go right ahead.
Speaking of outstanding students, I had the pleasure of going to Tempe High last Friday and seeing the honor band and orchestra play. And I brought a special guest who happens to be my significant other with me. And he sat down, and he usually is working when I do that. And I said, no, you've got to come hear these kids. And when we sat down and we left, he said to me, that is one of the best musical performances I have ever seen. And mind you, we have orchestra tickets, we have theater tickets, we have concert tickets. So to every one of those kids who put in so much work, one, to qualify for the honor band and orchestra, and two, to make it there and work so hard to be able to jump right in on that day with kids from all the other schools and make this magnificent performance. Kudos to them. I just want to say I'm so proud of you, and you made your community proud. And with that, I'd like to thank the community, because the reason why our kids sound so good and have the potential to be such good musicians, as you can see, we won an award, is because the community provided new instruments in our last override to all of our children. And there's no child, when I was going to school, I played the flute, I played the clarinet, I played the saxophones, I played the drum, but you know who had to pick up that bill? And I had to decide what things I was gonna do and not do and where that money was gonna come from. And a couple times I didn't get to choose music because there was something else that my mom and dad needed to use that money for. And I love that our community understands that music is a universal language, and that they put their money behind making sure that our kids always have that accessible to them and at free of charge to them. And not only, I remember my first instrument that I got, and I really wanted to take it to like a special place and have it decontaminated and maybe even check to see if it really was an instrument, because it was like 20, 30 years old, it was falling apart, and I didn't know, all was like, but our instruments are in such great condition, and our music teachers are so phenomenal. And I just want to thank the community for making that happen for our kids. And I hope that our kids can recognize that too, that we're proud of them, but it also takes the support, and it takes an army to do something like that. So congratulations to everyone, and thank you, community, for making beautiful music in the city of Tempe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too attended the program at Tempe High School. Here's the program. I particularly liked the first piece that the band did because it was a march, and they seemed to play very well when they got to the part about the Army. And the caissons keep rolling along. Yeah. Actually, I stood for that. But it was a fantastic night, and the auditorium was almost filled with the parents and the kids, and it was great. And I've been a supporter of music. I'll continue to do that. And I also went to McCamey for the community work that they did and displayed, and that was fantastic. There were also garden projects or biology projects, there were math projects, there were sports projects, and the children and the teams together, they presented very well. And that's what IB is also about. And I think it makes a difference, and I'm glad we have that, and I'm glad we're going to spend the money to keep it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Moving on to 12:01, announcements, upcoming events. The ASBA Board Operations and Leadership Training Seminar, BOLTS, will be Friday, April 9th from 9 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. at the Desert Willow Conference Center. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, April 24th at 11 a.m. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting, which you're all still welcome to attend, will be Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m. with an executive session in the Karen Arredondo Governing Board room, which is this room. And finally, the Tempe Diablos Excellence in Education Awards will be Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. at the Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Item 13:01, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
A motion by Charlotte, seconded by Jim. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.